Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Fight number 1 underway, and riders very quickly off from the start. Arago, X100 with a very fast start here today. Here we go, Mr. X100 in the race lead in category 1. Just seeing the counter attack come, and looks like Mr. X100 has got company in the shape of Jason Osborne up here. Let's see what happens. Osborne in the race lead at the moment. Is this going to be a return, and a return straight into winning ways? It looks like it's going to be. He's pushing. We can see the yellow gantry up in front, but he can't relax. Saeed Safrazad is coming. Safrazad and Pablo Popovic are coming. Did Osborne go too soon? He might well have done. We're at 14 watts per kilo from Safrazad, and he could have the timing right here. It's going to be Safrazad who's going to hit the line first. I think he's going to go over the line. He takes victory from Pablo Popovic in second. Jason Osborne. So hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club Qualifier race number 2. It's the 11th of September and we have a cracking race for you. As you've just seen on our rewind last week was really interesting, particularly that finale up the climb into the finish with the return of the Koenig Pro Jason Osborne really mixing things up. We've got a great race for you. And to take us through the race route, joining me again, it is Emma Martin. Emma, welcome once again to MyWhoosh. Take us through the course.
Welcome, Matt. It's great to be here for the Sunday Race Club today. So our men's race today will cover 45 kilometres, and in that distance with an elevation of 605 metres of climbing. It's a rolling course today with not a huge number of climbs in there. Just 2 main climbs today, one category 4, one category 3, and 50% of today's climbing is in the final 5 kilometres of the course today. So we also have 7 segments today, and they are a little bit more mixed up than we would normally see. So within the first 10 kilometres of today's race, we have 3 1-kilometre segments, followed by a 3.5 kilometre segment, 2 5k segments, and finishing today with a shorter 3.5 kilometre segment number 7, which leads us 1.3k into the finish line today.
And those segments, of course, a snapshot of each of the individual sectors. So that is a really discrete sector. The clock starting when a rider hits that, not when the front of the race hits that, but when the rider hits that. And it's that rider's individual time through there. So a mini time trial on the way through.
And indeed, it gives us an indication of what's happening in the race, not just in the front, but right the way through the field.
Okay, let's bring you the teams that are here. The UAE Clan team are the Belgian Waffles, Yorkshire Pudding Express, Danish Pavlova, and Hubbards, all with more than 3 riders in here. So that's the battle for the teams, 3 riders to count for those team standings. And don't forget, of course, that those team standings come into play even more importantly when we go on to our finals at the end of the month, because as well as our individual prize list, we have our team prize list as well, which means that those teams really do need to make sure they know how each other works, how they ride together. And of those teams, of course, are Category 1 teams, the fastest to top-level riders.
They are indeed, and we've got 43 Category 1 riders on the start sheets today.
That's a lot of riders, and that's a lot of very fast riders to take on the course. I think for me, really interesting to see in that mix that we're seeing people like Phil Graves back in the Mesa lineup with Jasin coming in, and they've been really on top. We also have, of course, our teams that don't have the 3 riders, but the representation there. So we've got Team SZ, which is the Swedish team. We've got the Beast Mode PB Rose team. Love that name. Beast Mode PB Rose, and the next PB Insured. I mean, they're very descriptive, and I've got to say the team names on esports are far better than the boring ones you get in other cycling disciplines, and it really does keep things interesting. I'm waiting for somebody to put something even more food orientated. You can tell I'm hungry today. I wish it was from lots of training, but the riders were really, really good. So interesting to see Lundqvist in there for the team SZ. We've got Walton theme for Beast Mode, and we've got Net and Brun for the next PB Insured. Now go on to Category 2, and we've got some big names. We've got the familiar team names, people like the UAE Falcons, Team Italy, and Italy B. Massive representation from them, and they're always right up there. So that's going to be really interesting to see. The Renegades in the mix as well, with people like Guy Gomez, Restrepo as well. The Warrior Men, though, the 2 Londono brothers, very, very quick. Hernandez Mato in there as well for Cycle Zone. A real mix of teams here today, and I think that is going to be very, very telling. as we move through in Category 2, and a lot of riders in Category 2 and 3.
Category 2 is a really big field today, Matt, with 82 riders going to be taken to the start line according to the start sheets today.
That's a lot of riders. Great to see that we've got the return of the squads from the Dango Realty Investing Colombia once again. Chasers are back in, big squad representation with Ken Upper riding for them. 4 riders in that team. The DS team, Climbers and X-Pro, interestingly, the other teams that don't have that same big representation. And of course, a huge volume of individual riders as well. Going to be interesting to see who takes to the front. And as our time ticks on, we remember, of course, these are our Category 2. So this is a step down from our elite riders at the front of the race, but prizes for our riders in Category 1, Category 2, and of course Category 3, which is our standard category, and that is for the riders who don't maybe kick out as much power, not really quite as fast, don't have a proven track record. And those teams that were the teams of the CM team, the UAE Road Warriors, and of course Team Strikers are those teams that are mixing it up in there. And a few riders in there, not as many as we normally might see, but I think that is to do with our riders progressing and moving up through the category into Category 2.
Yeah, 25 riders today on the start line for Category 3. But as we said earlier, 82 on Cat 2 and 48 individual riders in Category 2 today wearing those green jerseys. So an outstanding group of racing we're met to see today.
And they're going to be taking to this course 45 kilometres of racing, 605 meters of elevation, and our riders are starting to line up down on our start line. And of course, the riders know what they've got in store. They'll get the race manual beforehand. And you've been in this position, Emma. You're a regular racer and take it far more seriously than I do. I just go out to go have fun and generally get a kicking or try and hand one out. Whereas you, probably a little bit more serious than me, take this far more seriously and will have read the race manual. So what would you be doing right now as we hit basically 1 minute to go?
So hitting 1 minute to go, I would be down there on the start line, spinning my legs really lightly, waiting to wind up for the start, because we know that the start on esports platforms, particularly on this Sunday Race Club, is absolutely important to get in that lead pack once those seconds tick down and the race starts. Making that selection really early on in the race is key on this platform. So I'd be sat there waiting to go, but not going too early.
So we can see on the top left-hand side of the screen, we're watching SS. Is a really good rider to see, actually, and to watch, isn't it? SS here, just ticking, as you say, those legs around at 100 beats per minute. So that's a low heart rate, 56 revs per minute. That's the spin, isn't it?
It is indeed. So that's their cadence in terms of the speed that they're spinning. And what a fast start there. We've just seen that line kick off, and we've seen a Category 2 rider in that green jersey go flying down the road there as the rest of the pack now come through to catch. And that front group are now moving through that field as we move forward with the yellow and green and blue jerseys in there of our Category 1, Category 2 and Category 3 riders as they push off that start line and cover that first 500 metres to form that first group.
And it's really important, isn't it? It's a descent off from the line here, Emma. So here on Sunday Race Club, out from the line, downhill, big fast start, but it doesn't last for long. Very quickly, we're going to start picking up that roller coaster profile. And this is where you've got to be in the leading group. If you're sat further back, you can see that on the right-hand side of our screen. The gap's open, very difficult to close down. And really what is done now is decisive later on. Very difficult. We have seen the occasional rider come back, though, haven't we, Emma?
We have indeed. That push to the start to get into that front group, Matt, is really important. And putting the effort and the power in off the line is critical to do that. We have seen people who have had a difficult start, maybe a technical issue, or just get their timing wrong, actually have to work really hard during the race to catch back into that lead group. Because once you're in that group, then there's the ability to sit back, take a little bit of rest, and just stay in the group and utilise the draft.
And that, for me, really shows those riders who know exactly how hard to push and where to push. Mr. X100 trying to just keep nicely in this group. Very experienced rider as we start to make our way off from the line. I'm just going to go over the little oasis here in the course here. As we move through, though, you can see that group is predominantly a Category 1 in the yellow jerseys, Category 2 riders in the blue jerseys, sorry, in the green jerseys, and category 3 in the blue jerseys. I'm not colourblind, honest. So our riders heading out and away. We can just see the pace really, really quick here, 41 kilometres per hour. And if you get caught off the line, you can be in trouble very, very quickly indeed.
Yeah, and this downhill start today, Matt, has really meant that this is a big group off the front. You know, it's rolled out at a really fast pace, and this group now must have 40 riders still in it off the 114 that went past the start banner.
So that is a huge race field. There's always somebody to race against. And that's one of the great things in MyWhoosh. And you know that you're going to have riders who you're going to be battling it up against all the way into the line. And knowing where you are against them is key, and knowing who you're racing against. And I always used to like when I was racing, being able to go to people and go, last week you beat me, this week I managed to beat you. And that back and forth. And that's why the results is really important. So don't forget here on MyWhoosh, key things to remember: www.mywhoosh.com for all of the information on the platform. So where you can download the app that is on iOS, on Android, and on Windows. You can download that there and get all of the app onto whatever device you're going to run, and things like minimum specs, how to ride, where to get support, all on there. The event joinings on there as well, and most importantly, the results, so you know how well you've done in the race. And it does give you the splits, and we've just entered segment number 1, Emma.
We have just entered segment number 1, and we're watching the front of this pack, Matt, put a little pressure down as those 2 yellow jerseys go down the road. And we've seen a few riders sleep in at the back of that very large group, having to really put out some watts to catch through. Mr. X100 was ticking over 8 to 9 watts per kilo, sitting in 35th place in that bunch, as those 2 riders that we can see now pushed on the front as they went through into that segment.
And we've got Phil Graves here. We've got Vink in here as well. I mean, Vink and Graves, it really is a really good combination to have on the front attacking. And Phil Graves, of course, a rider who's been out in Lanzarote. I think he's been being stalked, so internet stalked by Emma, who does our rider data. Phil's actually been putting in some training at Club Lanzadana in Lanzarote, I think it is, hasn't he?
Yep, indeed. And you can see it's obviously paying off, because he's got I was going to say he did have the fastest time through that segment, but no more, because actually it's the chasing group that have got the fastest time through that segment in 1 minute and 11 seconds. Norin takes that fastest time, followed by a group of second cat riders before we then see the first cat riders in that large group. But this is really interesting, because Graves, you can see, has the 11th fastest time through that segment in but 1.6 seconds behind the fastest time, because that fastest time came from the chasing group.
Indeed, and that's a really good illustration of why this is such a great snapshot, because, of course, we saw Graves on the front go through. He set the fastest time when he hit it, but instantly the chasers behind who followed him through set a faster time through there by 1.678 of a second. Interesting to see that we've got Carl Teselius up there. Now, Carl's riding on the tune-up Tuesdays. Don't forget, we're in 2 time zones now, in the UAE in Gulf Standard Time, and, of course, in Oceania in the Australian time, in the Australian time zone as well. So 2 different worlds, 2 different platforms. I'm really interested to see. We're in with Johan Noren here, and Noren, the fastest rider in that split.
Yeah, but really interesting to see Tom Gakes up there as well, Matt. You'll remember Gakes being an outstanding Category 2 rider. We've commentated on him on a number of races, and he has put in some exceptional I'm going to use the word strategic racing, tactics, because he's gone with the Category 1 group. He's tried to stay in with the big groups at the front and distance the rest of the Category 2 riders. We saw a great race where he got caught literally about 3K before the finish line. So he gives us some fantastic racing, and it's great to see such aggressive tactics from him.
And we're seeing that. I mean, if you look at this at the moment, I mean, we're in with the group at the moment who are in 11th place. They really are trying to push on here. And we did wonder, looking at the course profile, because we obviously like to do our homework, and it's not just that we're avid fans of racing and want to watch that. I love to see the course. I love to see the profiles. Looked at the profile, thought, not sure about today. Could be 2 attacks here, basically on the big climb. And then on the final climb, we're not seeing that. This is hard from the word go, and you can see that in the numbers. We're seeing 6 watts per kilo in this chase group here, and they really are having to push to close down on the leading group. The leading group, they are trying to make it hard, and they're making it hard for Popovic, for SS, for Mr. X100, and for Saeed Safrazad, the UAE clan team. I think they were maybe out last night enjoying themselves too much, or maybe they were just a little bit slow off the mark there, or maybe they were just busy talking on Discord. It happens, you know. You talk to your teammates, you can get wrapped up in that conversation, and the start comes past, and you don't get that start that we talked about being so critical. Correct.
Well, I have to say, I'd have taken a look at this course profile today and been chatting to my teammates and the riders that I race with, because, you know, it is a rolling course. Other than the Category 4 climb that comes at 16k and then the final climb today, it is really rolling. But these two main climbs, Matt, are not steep. The Category 4 climb has an average gradient of 3.5%. The final climb today has an average gradient of 6.2%. These are not steep climbs.
They're not, no, but I'm sorry to cut you off. Look at Graves again here, 7.5 watts per kilo. He's clearly on the back of some good training here. We saw him maybe not on his best form in the earlier races only a few weeks ago. He's gone on this training camp. Now he's pushing. We've got Jason Osborne there, Vujas in there. Now Mr. X100, Ollie Jones, SS. This is the names that we normally talk about at the end of the race, coming up to the fore at the start of the race. And this is a really tough stuff. Interesting. Now, Matt Smithson is in there. Matt Smithson is a name to note, and there is a reason for that. I'll let you into that very shortly. I'm going to let you do some stats here, Emma, as our riders go in and through.
Yeah, so our riders have just come through our second 1k segment, and we noticed there it's quite significantly slower in 1 minute and 28, which shows us that the profile is now quite rolling rather than that downhill early start. But we're seeing the Belgians Waffle rider Martins come through with Simmons, Bjarhead, Kalman, Noren, Van Elst, Smithson, Knudsen, Svensson, and Safrazad coming through in 10th place. So this is the pack coming through. Those top 12 riders on your screen within 1 second of each other. This is the pack. They are riding and they are pushing on now. And I think it's really interesting what you're saying, Matt, in terms of that course. You know, look at those watts per kilo coming out. This is really a big attack going on now. You know, we're looking at 6.5, 7 watts per kilo. So no one wants a sprint finish, and I think that would have been my concern looking at this course profile early on.
Well, definitely, and Michael Vink on the move now. So look at Vink. He's got Graves chasing him now. The team behind, I think SS Safrazad, Popovic, all having worked really hard. And again, they're trying to break this clear. They don't want to leave this run right into the finish. This really, really key here today. They are trying to break the group up. Now, last week, we saw a massive bunch of 30 riders going in and through. So this is really, really interesting as they move. So this really is interesting to see these riders break it down to a very small group.
It is indeed, and we are in with Vink at the moment, and Vink and Graves are pushing on at the front here with a small gap of around 5 seconds back to SS and Mr. X100, who unsurprisingly are leading the charge to bring these two breakaway riders back. But it's fabulous to see some real action here early on in this race, because we've yet to cover 8 kilometres of the 45 kilometre distance of this race today, and we are really starting to see this wind up with some action.
Indeed, we are now. Here we go. Summary at the moment of where we are at. Leading breakaway again on the offensive. 2 riders, Vink and Graves, cleared 9 seconds from a chase group of Osborne, Mr. X100, SS, Paul Odlin in there, Cristiano Maglio, Saeed Safrazad, Michael Knudsen, Pablo Popovic, Ollie Jones. This is a bit like a who's who. Stefan van Eest in the mix as well. Zach Nair in there. We've got Christopher Thien in. The riders want to pull them back, but Graves and Vink are intent on ripping this up. The Yorkshire Pudding Express rider Graves and Danish Pavlova rider Michael Vink have gone for this. And what this does is this really does mix up how these riders can respond, because you wouldn't chase a teammate down. And you can see here, Jason Osborne has tried to break clear and get across to Vink.
He has indeed. Jason Osborne has been kicking out around 10 watts per kilo, and he's really made the decision to make this a group of 3 up the front. And it's going to be interesting to see what the tactics become if he closes this gap, because 3 is better than 2 for staying away.
It is indeed, and I think that's really interesting point you made there, that he's made a conscious decision to go across. This isn't just to drag the bunch up. He kicks clear at 10 watts per kilo. He's now settling down, 9 watts per kilo. Remember, this is a world-class professional rider who is trying to bridge across that gap, and that's the level you've got to be at.
It is. I mean, these riders at the front of this Category 1 race today, Matt, they're very, very capable of putting out 10 watts per kilo for a minute.
Wow. That is some serious, serious power. So if you're talking about a rider who's 75 kilos, that's 750 watts for a minute. That is a huge, huge power amount coming out. And look at the gap. We've got the names now coming through, the chasers behind, and you can see SS leading those chasers. But to go through on that 1K segment, 8 seconds down on the time by Osborne. Osborne about to make the catch here. So Jason Osborne, the rider who's the rider for Dakota, getting across.
Yeah, but look at that watts per kilo. 9.3 watts per kilo for 1 minute and 5 seconds from Osborne there to make the catch. That was an absolutely committed effort to close that down. So we are seeing the fastest time through that segment by Jason Osborne, making that catch to Philip Graves and Michael Vink, still pushing on fast. But look how much slower the chasing group are, Matt. 1 minute and 13 seconds, so 3 seconds behind Graves and Vink, but 8 seconds behind Jason Osborne, who's pushing that fast time to make that catch. So Osborne, Graves, Vink, SS, Vajasin, Popovic, Simmons.
Yeah, really interesting. That got 13 seconds now, the split between our riders at the front and the riders at the back. For me, that is a really substantial number. If those riders continue to work like this, I think this is going to be very interesting to see. And I'll take my guess at him being 75 kilos. He's actually 69.78 according to the maths on the screen there. Because of course you can work out riders' weights by doing some simple maths. That's about as good as my maths goes. I had some serious maths questions thrown at me yesterday, and that definitely wasn't my forte. Watching racing, knowing what's going on, and reading a race. Well, I'd like to think over these years I've managed to have a little bit of practice. So my name's Matt Payne. I'm here with Emma Martin. We're bringing you all of the race coverage on the Sunday Race Club here today. Our men's race in progress with 11 kilometres covered, just under 15 minutes of racing. Breakaway group of 3 riders: Phil Graves, Michael Vink, and Jason Osborne. Vink and Osborne from Danish Pavlova squad. Graves from the Yorkshire Pudding Express, the group behind trying to chase. Right-hand side of your screen, you can see in the green are Category 2 leaders who are chasing our Category 1 leaders at the moment. Big pack of riders. But when we say there are leaders, that is a big leading group. I think we still have 1 or 2 riders who are second category riders in the mix at the front chase pack of Category 1. So let's see what's going to happen. Yep, indeed we have. So Cristiano Maglio in that chasing group. He's currently sitting in what is going to be about 8th place, I think, at the moment as they go up along the course. That group behind, really interesting watching the chasing group on the right-hand side of your screen on this helicopter shot. The cam going up over the top. It's a bit like having your own personal cable cam over the top. It is splitting and fracturing under the pressure of the chase, and the chase is coming from the squad from the squad who are the riders in the UAE clan team. The riders behind are chasing hard, and it is splitting the pack apart. Really interesting that this is starting to take effect here today on the Sunday Race Club, because we saw that attack come. We saw Graves and Vink go once. They went again. This time Osborne came across the gap, and the gap it is holding, if not extending at the moment. The work being done by Osborne, Graves and Vink, very, very quick indeed. A lot of effort being put in, and the group behind, I think, is going to be in danger of fracturing into 2 groups. The group that can put in the pace that's required to chase, and the group that can sit on the back and just about hang on. Big effort coming from the squad, from the riders in the UAE clan team. No surprises there. There shouldn't be really any work coming from anybody in the UAE clan team, from anybody who's not putting work in that chase, because that is where it's going. The other teams, they're not going to do a thing. They're going to sit back. So people like Yorkshire Pudding Express Belgium, and Danish Pavlova, they're not going to do anything because they've got riders up in front in the shape of these 3. The gap at the moment, about 14 seconds. But remember, up in that leading group, Yorkshire Pudding Express, along with Danish Pavlova, and that will affect how this racing plays out. Let's see who is going to try and come across. Vink doing his turn here, putting out some big numbers once again.
Yeah, so Michael Vink, who we are very used to seeing in this type of action at the front of this race, in this group with Phil Graves back off a training camp, and Jason Osborne, who, let's not forget, Matt, has some significant form this year, finishing third in the Esports World Championships earlier on this year. You know, Vujasin, who we regularly see making the action, finished fifth, Osborne third. We've got some real class in this field today, and let's be realistic, the numbers that these riders are putting out is really showing us that.
It is indeed. I mean, if you think you've got Osborne, you've got Vink, you've got Graves in that lead group, but behind in that chasing group, we've got riders that we know time and time again can push out those big numbers chasing. I mean, Noren, a rider who's come across from the Swedish squad, very, very quick rider, and a rider who last week was putting in some very fast times in those segments.
Yeah, Noren, yeah, it's also rather handy on a mountain bike, Matt. Noren is an elite mountain bike racer. Likewise, his teammate, Bjorklund.
Right, okay, so they're going to have smooth power cadence. They're going to be able to put the power down. They're going to be really good at spinning. They're going to get a really good feel for getting the power through. It was a study done not all that long ago. This is one for all the people who are into their power data and engineering. And she did a power test and measured who was able to put down the smoothest power. And the expectation was that the highest revving, smoothest riders would be a rider who rides on a velodrome on a track, who can really ride a fixed wheel quickly. The results actually showed that mountain bikers actually can smooth the power down because they're so in tune, feeling what the terrain is doing through the feet, feeling through that drive chain, how much power before the grip breaks, keeping the revs high so that they don't get stalled by rocks. So overall, mountain bikers generally have a really high cadence. It's going to be really interesting. If we do jump onto Noren, I'm going to be looking at those revs on the way through to see if the study is borne out here. Certainly my experience is generally that it is true. And remember, of course, mountain biking is sprint, stop, sprint, stop, sprint, stop, high intensity effort, easing back off again. So perfect for chasing down and attacking in an aggressive race here today. And that is certainly the race that we're seeing so far.
Yeah, and the ability to recover between technical features. You know, in a mountain bike race, the most technical features come early on in the downhill after you've done a massive climb, Matt. So exhaustion, technical features, and micro recovery and rest. Sounds to me like MyWhoosh racing.
It does, doesn't it? Very much so. And here on Sunday Race Club, I'm not sure there's going to be too much rest for our leaders. They go into our next segment. Once again, they're coming through thick and fast with the pace that is being set by the race leaders at the moment. They're absolutely flying. And I've got to say, just looking at the times on the way through as we go into segment number 4, they're quick times for these segments. And yes, it is a relatively flat course to start off with today, but the riders are motoring. And we're currently at 15 kilometers of racing covered. Our bigger climb prior to the finale is our 4th category climb. Remember, that kicks off at about 16k into the races. So we're not far off the climb. And we should see the distance between the chasers and the leaders come down as the leaders slow as they hit that hill. So the physical distance on the road, in our virtual world, of course, is going to come down. But the time gaps, I suspect, by the time we come over the other side, will have stayed the same because the pack advantage of drafting is not as much when you're going uphill.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these 3 front leaders do in this race as they move into this climbing segment. Matt, it's not long. It's only 2.5k with an average gradient of 3.5%. But it could be enough if they are actually choosing to push on that segment. Because, of course, obviously pushing on the climb benefits when you go over the top because the distance between you and the pack behind extends as you hit that downhill. So whilst the uphill foreshortens, the downhill lengthens. This 3.5 kilometre segment that the riders are now on actually takes in the start and this climb. So it's going to be really interesting to see the different tactics between the chase group and the leading 3.
So the leading 3 just up the road, that gap has started to come down. We're down at about what's going to be 12 seconds. So we just keep those time clocks just updating. So I think it's going to be at about 12 seconds between the leaders and the chasers behind. The question will be, What is it going to go now? That time is just starting to compress as they go in onto the climb here. We're at 16.4k, and the gradient is going to start to kick up. You can see the left-hand side of your screen. Jason Osborne at the moment just being distanced by Vink and Graves. Jason Osborne will want to come back together again. They will not want to fracture on here. However, look at the chase behind. They're closing in distance-wise. It looks like it's coming back. The gap looks like it's coming down. What they've got to do, they've got to push over the top and not panic, because as they go over the top, as Emma says, that squeeze box, that constant interaction, it compresses, that it opens back up again over the top. And this is where that draft is not going to be as much effect, because the speed is relatively low. But look at this. I think coming into this climb, Mr. X100 has timed this very, very well, along with the team behind, because I think they've just pushed on that little bit more coming into the base of the climb to try and get that distance down.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of help there throughout that entire pack to bring that distance down, because watching the pack inside, Nudson's been kicking out about 7 or 8 watts per kilo. They've really been moving as a group. So rather than the front 3 utilise the climb, it's the group that have utilised the climb to push on and bring them back.
Interesting to see as well. Martin Martins, that point about being a lot of different riders. Martin Martins riding for the Belgian Waffle squad has done a lot of the work in pulling it back, and they didn't have a rider in the lead group. So the attack is nullified on the 4th category climb. The group pulled it back. They got their timing right. Now is the time for a classic counter attack. Are we going to see somebody try and kick over the top? Now would be the time. If I was in that group, if I was rude in the fact I didn't get in that group, I'd be going. And now Knudsen goes at 7.8 watts per kilo. I'm not sure that's enough to break clear, though, with the power and the strength of these riders. Vujasin going over the top now. And again, trying to keep the screw wound in tight here. He's really trying to apply the pressure to this group. And look at the group. It's not a bunch. It's not a blob. It's not a mass of riders. It is a really fractured and desperate group of riders, all trying to respond to the attacks on the front. So here on the Sunday Race Club, on MyWhoosh, the attacks are going, and Knudsen now has managed to open up a gap. Who does Knudsen race for? He rides for the same team as Michael Vink and Jason Osborne, the Danish Pavlova squad at the moment. The Vikings are taking this race apart at the moment. It's the Danes who are leading the way.
Yeah, and where's Ollie Jones, Matt?
Oh, let me guess. He's sat in the wheels waiting for the last climb.
I love the team tactics from this team. Danish Pavlovas, I really do. They think about what they do. Osborne's gone out. He's pulled the group back. Knudsen's now pushed on. Vink was in there in the first place. They really know how to light up a race.
They do indeed. They make my job much easier in terms of enjoying the racing and bringing you great action here today and putting words to action. And that's what we've got, and that's what we love about the racing on MyWhoosh. We want that attacking racing. We want to see these riders on the face. We want to see them breaking down the groups and really mixing it up. And it does make life difficult for the bigger teams as well. And that's true whether we're watching one of the tours, watching the UAE men's and women's tours on the road, or whether we're watching this on here now. Just see Martin Martins again, Waffle squad right up there, 3rd place there, Emma.
Yes, but it's interesting here, isn't it, when you look at this, Matt? Take a look at the times here. Not big groups going together during this 3.5k segment. Some really different times here. So Norin and Knudsen, 5 minutes and 8 seconds going through that. Pretty much a similar time. Then a second back, we've got Martins, Jones, Neer, Cutler, Safrazad, Vujasin. Over 2 seconds back, Mr. X100, SS and Popovic. And then 15 seconds down, Jason Osborne.
And that is the closing of the gap over that duration. They came into the segment with an attack clear. They come out of that segment with that group pretty much together. Martin Martin's on front. Now it's Zach Nair going in through Nair, running for that next PB insured squad. Up in this group as well, we've got Christoph Theme for the Beast Mode, PB Rose. He got a big mix of teams represented in the squad, along, of course, with a number of individual riders. And, of course, that is going to be really interesting as this race. Now, a little bit of a pause at the front of the first cat race. Let's take a look back across the right-hand side screen. This is the chasing group of 2nd category riders. And I say it's a chasing group because there are a number of second category riders just behind our leaders or in that leading group. Last we saw, haven't had a good look back. To the racing here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club. Our riders are working well at the moment. So here we go, the riders on the right of your screen, the chasers working hard here. The riders on the left of your screen, we can just see them working to keep that group together. I think they want a bit of a break at the moment, Emma. They're trying to take it easy, I think, just because of that constant chase and attack.
Yeah, we talked about rest, Matt. There's been an outstanding pace for the first 25 minutes of this race. And at some point, there's going to be a little bit of a rest and respite because this is still a big group. And I can imagine there's a large number of riders in this group not wanting to take the other 15 with them to the start line, or should I say to the finish line.
I think it was a lot more than 15 on that start line. I tell you something, it's a really, really quick action today, and we're just trying to draw breath like the riders because it's been so frantic and try and catch up with who is where in this race. And it's one of the things when you're racing is so data rich, you can look around you. When you're scrolling through the screens, trying to make sure you've got all the riders there, it's almost data overload. And sometimes I think our riders sometimes just need to just focus on that race. One man who we know is very good at that, Hassan Al-Rumethri, on the right-hand side of your screen. He's always there or thereabouts. I've got to say, a lot of respect for this man. He consistently puts out not just good performances, but very similar performances as well.
Yeah, but I think, Matt, from the race that I've been watching in that Category 2 race, this is the second group on the road. I've seen a group further down the road around 23rd to 27th in the race that includes Gakes, for example. I think this is the chasing group, and Al-Rumethri, Baltazar, Il Pino, these are really good, strong riders that we see regularly in this Category 2 race are chasing at the moment.
Well, that's a different mix, isn't it? And I think that's one of the great things on MyWhoosh. There's always something going on with your first category, second category, or third category rider. And don't forget, of course, you can practice that racing on Tune Up Tuesdays. We also, of course, have our regular MyWhooshes rides, the My Bunch, the Battle the Bot races, and of course, we've got lots of new updates. Make sure that you jump on and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll see on there the videos from Jeff. There's usually a roundup as we run it into the month, including a little teaser of a course that is going to be coming soon. Now, we are sworn to secrecy. I'm not allowed to tell you a word about what it is that's coming. However, another new world coming, and of course, that is going to be really interesting to see. Of course, we've got Australia with Wollongong, the home of the Road World Championships at the moment, just being launched. Great to ride through there. Really enjoyed racing and riding through there. And don't forget on a MyWhoosh's ride, you can get on there. And Tune Up Tuesdays using the, I think it's the West route that they've used for the Tune Up Tuesday so far.
Yeah. So other than racing and events, Matt, there's also training on MyWhoosh. Let's not forget there's over 720 workouts. You can do anything from plan to race time trials, road racing, getting fitter, whatever it is you are interested in, there's something for you there.
And that is really important because, of course, you can race yourself fit. I mean, that's old school. That's my kind of, when I was racing, I hate, I'll be honest, I'll hold my hand up here. I hated racing. I was Mr. Race. Everything was a race. I'd race you for a Kit Kat or a cup of coffee. I'd race you to get to the front door. I'd race you to anything, particularly if it was on a bike. Now, that meant that all I did was race. I didn't actually train in any kind of structured way. And because of that, my performance suffered. If you are a trainer, and I'm going to point very definitely at the professor over at the other side of the studio here, Professor Martin, oddly enough, likes her stats and data and is the same with the training. So he's training driven. And I think the MyWhoosh training plans, I think, Emma, that's your idea of heaven, is it not that's where you would want to be in a space to improve your performance?
I like plans and targets and progression and development. something in my psyche.
Definitely, and it gets better results, let's face it, if you want to maximize that. That's why it's used by so many of the teams. We're seeing the coaches and we're seeing the guys who write those training plans, who write the programs, out working with the UAE team. Remember, of course, the UAE teams, the men's and women's teams, supported by MyWhoosh, and of course that integration, it maximizes the benefits, not just for the team, but of course for you, if you jump on and you ride on MyWhoosh, because that knowledge, that experience about how to get you that extra few percent, that extra little difference is key.
So if you're joining us for the first time, this is the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, and we are here with a split screen for you. On the left-hand side of your screen, we have our Category 1 races in the yellow jerseys with a large group of 14 riders leading this race out after 32 minutes duration. We've got 45 kilometres of course today with 2 core climbs. They are already over the 4th category climb, and the 3rd category climb, where 50% of the climbing today takes place, is in the last 5 kilometres of this race today.
And at 23.9, we've seen an aggressive Cade cover. We've seen an aggressive race so far. That initial kick, the run in to the 4th category climb, very aggressive. The racing settling down just a little bit now. Behind, we have chasing groups of 1st and 2nd category riders out on that course with a real mix of riders. But the very front of the race at the moment, those 1st category riders containing a lot of the very cream of riders on esports and the World Championships.
Yeah, we were talking about micro rest, Matt, and Mr. X100, who we are in with at the moment, heart rate dropped to around 122, which was a massive rest for him, but he's obviously decided the rest was too easy, because at 8 watts per kilo, he is now pushing on and launching an attack off the front of that group of 15 riders.
And sometimes the best form of defence is offence. If your team's been having a hard time chasing, what you do, stop the chasing, go out on the attack. That's what's happening here. We've got Mr. X100 now starting to get, look at the response, though, coming from Jones, Vujasin, Osborne, Knudsen, Nair. All, we just see numbers up round about that 10 watts per kilo mark. Now, remember, when these guys are sprinting, they can really push that on. They can really go up even higher still on those final sprints. Remember, working out watts per kilo is the number of watts per kilogram of body weight. Now, I'm not the lightest rider in the world. You're looking at round about the 80 kilo mark. I can kick out in a sprint on a good day 2,000 watts. That's a big sprint. Downside is I can do it once a month, and then I need about 3.5 weeks, if not 4 weeks of rest afterwards. These guys are not going to kick out that one big hit, but what they're going to be able to do is do it time and time again in the same race, and that is why they are so good. Vink on the offensive again. He's kicking out big wattage here, and yet he's going to be able to do that again and again and again. And that is what the training gives you. That's what the racing gives you. You know, we're watching the chase from Mr. X100 here at 400 watts, 500 watts. That's still massive power. And defy you to go out and ride for 400 watts for any length of time if you don't regularly ride. These guys are doing it non-stop. I mean, that is going to be big numbers for anybody to be able to put out for a long race, except for, of course, the top continental pros and the top riders on eSport.
Yeah, Matt, these are world-class eSport riders we've got on this screen in front of us. They are more than capable of putting out 5.5 watts per kilo for 20 minutes, you know, and kicking out power of 15 seconds of close to 15 watts per kilo for 15 seconds, not the 2,000 for 3 seconds like you, Matt.
I know, I'm just a flash in the pan.
But we've moved through now this race, and this race is moving on now as we move through segment 5. So segment 5 was our first 5-kilometre segment, and actually pretty much downhill. So 6 minutes 43 for the fastest rider to go through this segment. And I think the thing to note here is realistically this group have gone through together, and she says that as it changes behind them. And we had a group go through together with Vink, Jones, Cutler, Popovich, Osborne, Graves, Knudsen, Safrazad. And what we've actually got is a faster group behind them on the road of Simmons, Mayer and Thiem. So the group chasing further back down the field, not in this lead group, have actually put through a quicker time on this segment.
And they're about 28 seconds down on this lead group at the moment. That's second chase, that second group, leading chasers, second group on the road. So group 1 on the road, are leaders, currently together, currently holding together. However, 28 seconds back, 3 chasing riders. And this is where things get very interesting, because those chasing riders are moving quicker. They're going to be trying to close the gap down. The leaders will not want to be closed down. We're currently at what is 27 kilometers. So we're over half race distance. And you can see that chase group on the right-hand side of your screen now. Simmons, Cowan, Mayer, Thiem, just in front of Ollie Simmons, who's just coming in. Jonas Bjarhed is behind. I think Bjarhed back a reasonable distance there. I think it'll be harder for him to get back in there. And interestingly, Christian Maglio, second category rider, putting in a good ride in here, because he's going to be currently sitting in 19th position overall. But the leading group of riders is going to be, I think, a total of 14 riders, sorry, in that lead group. So 14 riders in lead group, and then those chasers behind trying to come back.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, there's 4 riders in that chase group there. They are 300 metres behind the lead group in this race. And as we roll into that final climb, if these 4 riders keep moving through as they are, they're going to start picking off riders as they fall off the back of that group. And it's highly likely that these 4 riders will move through the field and get better finishing positions.
Indeed, the riders who can stay, maybe who are close to their limit, but are able to ride on that rolling terrain. I class myself as that style of rider. A rider who can stay in the rolling terrain and hold the group when it hits the final climb is likely to be distance from the race lead. And that's when the group behind, if maybe they're not quite so good on the rolling terrain but can climb, can really profit. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see them come through, because you can see it on the course profile here. Remember, we are going to hit that final climb. The official climb starts at 39.9k. But if you look at the course map where our green rider is for what is the standard lap line on one of our other courses, it's a great indicator, because it's actually the low point of the course before we come up into that climb. So we effectively hit the lowest point of the entire course at 28.8k, and at 45k we're at the top of the hill, and the bit in between is virtually all uphill. There's a few rolling bits in there, and that's just going to serve to break up the rhythm. So at the moment, our riders continue to motor onwards here today. We have got 2 more of our segments to come. We're going to see what's going to happen here on the Sunday Race Club with me, Matt Payne, joined by Emma Martin here today. Emma, quick summary of the racing so far in terms of what you've seen in performances of these riders, in terms of anyone who's maybe impressed you with what they've been doing.
So I think today what has been really impressive in the first half hour of this race, Matt, has really been the attacks that we've seen. We've seen a number of riders try and go clear. We've seen really strong riding from riders in the group, pulling the group back. We've seen further attacks. This has not been a let's ride as a large group. We might still have 14 riders in that lead group, but they have been constantly attacking each other to make this racing exciting. On the right-hand side of our screen at the moment, we are back in with the chasing group of our Category 2 riders. And this is now starting to move to be a really large group. As we can see this, we are in with Aura Methri as they close the gap to a large pack of Category 2 riders. So on the right-hand side of our screen, we are seeing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. What I'm counting is more than 15 Category 2 riders now coming together to form a large leading group in that Category 2 race.
And as they come together and attack on the front now, it is the team from the UAE clan team. They're sending SS up the road here. Interesting, because SS hasn't necessarily been their fastest finisher. Vink has answered it and gone over the top. And I think Vink really here has got some pace. He is going to go clear. He may well be wearing down that UAE clan team for his teammates who are back in the pack. And it's going to be interesting to watch the response here from Vink's team. So that is Nutton, Osborne and Jones. And the response from the UAE clan team. So say Safrazad, Pablo Popovic, Mr. X100. Are they going to go after them, or are they just going to sit there? Osborne, 3.6 watts per kilo. That's definitely not a chase.
No, and it's really interesting, isn't it? So Vink has gone down the road, and I think they're looking at each other, or as much as you can look at each other on MyWhoosh.
You can. I do it all the time. Come on, you know you can. You sit there, you sit on the turbo trainer, and literally you're there and you're watching what people are doing. You can't see expressions of an avatar, but you can watch heart rates. You're watching for the kick. You're watching for that spring. Who's going to go? Is somebody going to go? Who is it? And which team? You're right, Emma. It's so important to know what's going on. And you do watch people and you look at each other and you're watching each other. Might not be facial expressions, sadly, and probably a good thing if you're watching me out and racing. But definitely we are seeing some really interesting responses from that group. Look at the group. Not really going anywhere. Martin Martins, again, doing the chasing here for the Belgian Waffle squad, who don't have anybody up the road. The leaders, though, look at the gap they've pulled out.
Yeah, 200 metres now. Well, close to 200 metres now. Vink and SS have pulled out on this group behind them that contains around 11 riders in the chase group. But, you know, Vink and SS are pushing on. Look at those watts coming out from SS at the moment. 7, 8 watts per kilo. But the chasing group are on 4.5 to 5.
Yeah, and I think this is really interesting because, of course, the UAE clan team, they would be quite happy to leave SS up there, I think, to that final climb. That I'm sure that Ollie Jones has got Vinks back if it does come back together again. And he's being left to riders who are not in these teams to chase. So expect to see the squad of Yorkshire Pudding Express, if they've got anything left after that big early attack express. Expect to see the squads of people like Belgian Waffles, maybe see Hubbers, or maybe see the riders come across from next PB Insured. But remember, the riders at the front here, they are all going to be looking at positions. They want to get in a good verified ride. They want to stay in category 1 as well. Of course, what you don't want us to do is take it too easy in all your rides and then get dropped down a category and not be in the hunt for those big prizes and the big team prizes when it comes to the racing in that end of month final. At the moment, Michael Knudsen really, I think, just rolling over the top there. The Pavlova squad have got Vink up the road. Knudsen is just holding on the front here, just keeping it fast enough to keep there, not be a chase. And that is the knack. If you're too slow on the front, somebody will attack out and go clear. That's what you've got to discourage on the front of the group. But you've got to try not to close down the gap.
Yeah, and the road is clear behind them now, Matt. Look at that. We've got a fantastic shot there of Vink and SS with that sweeping right-hand bend behind them. The chasing group are nowhere to be seen. Vink and SS are now 300 metres down the road, which is out of eyesight of this chasing group. And I'm looking at around a 20-second gap now.
I think I might have to suddenly start to let Emma be the impassionate statistician, because come on, this is it, guys. Come on, Michael. Come on, SS. We want you to do this. I want you to do this. It doesn't matter anybody else at home. This is what we want to see. We want to see that attack gone. 2 riders clear. Chasing riders behind. Not yet getting it together, leaving it to the odd 1 or 2 rider who's not going to close it down. These two are on a mission now, and they are pushing. That gap has grown, the time gap has grown, and this is what it's all about. Riders going on the attack. God, I love this. So come on, guys, time to dig in. It's at 45 minutes. You know you've not got much left. We're on 33k. We're only going to 45k. Come on, we can all ride 12k. Well, this is where it's going to count. Come on!
A number of times you have told me if we've been out on a bike ride, I remember in the Pyrenees, anyone can ride 10k for an ice cream.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Michael, Miss SS, I will buy you both an ice cream if this succeeds. I promise you, I will send you the money through by bank transfer for an ice cream each, but you've got to make it count to the finish. You've got to get into that finish at the front, because this is it. I live by ice cream, you can tell, can't you? Used to bet in Kit Kats, now it's all about encouragement by ice cream. Come on, this is it, time to push. Let's see how hard they're going to work. And I think they're just starting to flag a bit here. Maybe the temptation of an ice cream isn't enough here to keep them going. We want them to keep moving here. That gap, 30 seconds. Come on, boys, this is it. Come on, time to give it a big kick.
Yeah, so we are on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, and the leading 2 riders in the Category 1 race are 30 seconds clear of the main bunch, with 34 kilometres travelled now of a 45-kilometre race.
So our riders on the front, Michael Vink and SS Vink doing the work here and pushing on, and really is doing a big effort here to try and stay clear. And this is going to affect the racing behind. It's not just, of course, about the two riders on the front as Vink keeps pushing here. It's also about the effect this has behind, because what this is doing, this is causing a number of riders to have an easier ride. Teammates of SS, they don't need to close this down. The teammates of Michael Vink, they don't need to close this down. And that is key here, because they could just let them go. What the group behind have to do, their teammates have to keep the pace fast enough to discourage attacks, but slow enough for that gap to increase. And that is key. However, remember that we have prizes for top 5. So if your teammate's up there, is your teammate going to necessarily share that prize with you, or are they not? Because remember, a lot of the pro teams, all the prize money is shared because it is a team race. And that is a really important point for our riders. Do you share your prize money out between the people who are up there and earn that prize money, or do you keep it for yourself? In which case, I question whether you're a team. I always think that shared teams are much, much better in terms of creating race wins.
Reward strategies, that's what you're talking about now.
I see posh words coming from the professor over there at the other side of the studio.
So we are looking at this race now with this split screen with the two leading riders, SS and Vink, on the right-hand side of your screen. And the chasing group we're in with Mr. X100 on the left-hand side of your screen. And we are now seeing a distance of over 500 metres between these two groups of riders. And with 48 minutes now travelled in this race. Is this going to stay clear now, Matt?
I hope so. I'm not going to give you my real answer because it would not be as encouraging as my I hope so. I'd love to think so. I mean, there's 10,000 AED at the end of this, and you can do your own conversion wherever you are in the world of what AED translates to. But wherever you are, it's a lot of money. That's for the win in the first category. Second place in category 1 is 8,000 AED. But remember, of course, when you get into the finals, that is going to be added to with the team money as well.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be really interesting now and really telling, because we are now seeing our lead 2 riders go under the finish banner of segment 6. Segment 6 is our last 5-kilometre segment. It was rolling and then uphill. And our lead 2 riders have gone through, Vink and SS, in a time of 6 minutes and 53 seconds together. I'm really interested to see what this chase group are going through this split in, because that will really give us an indication as to whether Vink and SS are pulling out, which I think they are, versus this group chasing.
Well, I'm seeing Knudsen here pushing in towards the line here. And I think that's a dangerous move here, because he could close down on his teammate if he's not careful. And that is the rider who's currently showing in 7th place. That's for the individual segment. And that point Emma makes there, time through that segment, at least 9 seconds quicker.
Yeah, but I think this is really interesting because there's a number of stories on this screen in front of us. We've got Vink and SS setting the fastest time over this segment, pushing out from that main group. Simmons, Kalman, Thiem and Mail have got the next fastest time. They are not in the chase group. They are in the group behind and have made the catch to the chase group. Because the actual chase group originally was Knudsen, Noren, Martins, Mr. X100, Near. They are 32 seconds down. So this is a story within a story. We've got 4 riders who have made the catch, who were group 2 on the road to make a bigger group 1. And we've got Vink and SS down the road.
So the race leaders, SS, Michael Vink, 40 plus seconds down the road behind group 2 and 3. Effectively. So we got our duo at the road as 1, 2 was the big group, 3 was the chasing foursome. They've come back together, and now we're starting to see a response behind, and that is coming through. And you can just see that Vink and SS continue to push here behind. It looks like Mr. X100, Jason Osborne, and co continuing to work hard on the left-hand side of your screen. And now we're seeing a real mix-up in here. I think they're aware that as we come up to about 37k for the chasers, and we're well in towards that 40k marker, you are getting in towards a key part of this climb, because we're at 36.9. And remember that when we came through 28.8, it really started to kick uphill. This is the run for the main climb coming in now, and this is where it is key, because remember, we hit the base of the final steep section at 39.9 kilometers. So here on Sunday Race Club with me, Matt Payne, with Emma Martin. The two have-a-go heroes on the front, SS and Michael Vink, pushed on. They're trying to stay clear. Chasing group behind, not getting the pressure on, interrupted by the teammates of our two leaders, not chasing. That has made things interesting, and it looks to me like Vink is no longer waiting for SS. I think he's had enough of it dropping off the pace. It looks to me like he's decided we need to push, and we need to push now. The gap coming down fractionally, but you can see the chase is on behind, and I think word has come back from SS to Mr. X100. I don't have it to hold Vink on the climb. You need to come up, and you need to come now.
Yeah, and I think Vink has realised that, and Vink has pushed on, because let's be realistic, it's less than 10 minutes now till that finish line will come in sight for Vink, and how hard can you push for 10 minutes for the win?
10 minutes, that's a bold prediction by Emma there of our final race time here, because that climb, it isn't realistically that long as climbs. It's not a big alpine climb. It's not like the Jebel Hafid. Great climb on MyWhoosh. Absolutely love riding it. You can get into a really good rhythm on there. This is a power climb. This is about a big kick up there. And I think Vink now has the measure of SS. SS is trying to respond to this, but you can see the difference here. That group behind, they're getting twitchy for a while. It was just rolling. People maybe taking a bit of a turn. Look at the power numbers on the left-hand side of your screen. Look at what people are doing, and look at those heart rates. They've started to elevate. They're starting to respond. They're starting to pick this up. The UAE clan team now know that SS is not with the race leader. Now, they might have played that card a little bit longer, left him up there, but I think they've decided time to make that move. They're still nearly 3/4 of a minute down, though, on the race leaders, and that is a big gap. The race leader, Michael Vink. Come on, mate, I'll make it 2 ice creams. SS has gone. You can have his. That's it. It's all over. Come on, Michael, time to go. You know, put an ice cream at the end of a climb for me. I'll be there in a shot. And we're seeing that now. Michael Vink really is going hard here. Look at the revs here. He's at 99 revs per minute. The heart rate 169. He's 54 minutes of racing in. He's about to hit the 40k marker in the race lead on the right-hand side of your screen. The man who is with him is SS on the left-hand side of the screen. He's got to get back across to the gap, or he's got to sit up and then wait for the next group to be able to contribute to the next group. But pushing on is a dangerous strategy, because if you don't make it back to the race leader, you're going to have given everything and you're going to have nothing when that group comes in. But it may well be you feel he's got nothing there anyway.
Yeah,
but I'd like to have nothing. He's still 8 watts a kilo, is SS. He's still working hard. I'll be fair. Maybe give him the little flake out of the 99 ice cream for those that know what one of those is.
He is, but I think Michael Vink has decided he's going to time trial the last 5 kilometres of this race today, because we're seeing some really steady pace sitting around 5.5 watts per kilo coming out of Michael Vink now, as he goes under the banner of the final segment, which is a 3.5k segment, and will give us some really good information on the final stages of this race today.
Indeed, so Michael Vink going into that segment first, leading this race on to the final climb. We're now on that final run up to the summit. Michael Vink leading. This climb will take us to our 45-kilometer marker for our finishing line. He's inside the final 4.5 kilometers here. Michael Vink solo, being chased by one rider who is now at about 30 seconds down. And that is SS from the UAE clan team, chasing Michael Vink from Danish Pavlova. And are we going to see the Dane on the top of spot here, the Danish Pavlova rider? He's come halfway around the world to ride for that team, but you know what? He's doing a great job on the front. The chase has now hit that segment. That gap is huge. It feels so long, Emma.
Yeah, we're looking at about between 500 and 600 metres now between the lead rider of Michael Vink, time trialling his way to the finish. Behind him, the sole rider of SS, and then back to what was the leading group of 14 riders in this race today.
And Martin Martins is doing so much of this chase work here today. Very strong today for that Belgian Waffles squad. He's been right up there. And now we're really come around that turn. We're into those final 5K. This is normally where we see those moves being made in the teams behind. So expect to see Mr. X100, Saeed Safrazad on the attack. Expect to see people like Jason Osborne. Expect to see them marking out the riders on the front. We're into the final K. Vink on the attack at the front. He is continuing to push on here, and the gap is big behind him. I'm not sure the gap to SS is stabilized yet. We're just seeing that yo-yo a little bit, but you can see them physically on the course. This is the same bend. If SS was able to just shoot a camera up the road around the right and turn, he'd be there, and it looks like he's out here. Oh my goodness, SS, is that a stop and a wait there for the team? Is he under orders? He went down to 0 watts per kilo, and now he's kicking back up. I think that's either a power dropout, or it could well be that he's had to stop. He could have dropped a communication device, a bottle, a gel. Could have got a problem with the bike, of course, because if you jam your chain, if you're sprinting there, you maybe drop into the little chainring for the climb. You're going to be in trouble. And SS, look at that, quickly back up to 9.2 watts per kilo. I think that's a response to a mechanical. And if his heart rate has shot up, which I think it's done, I think that was a big issue there for him mechanically. He's now kicking on Michael Vink up at the front. Well, the avatar's taking a look over his shoulder. He's going to need a telescope behind him because the distance is huge between him and the chasing group, but it's going to come down. 41.8K now for our race leader. And the people he's got to be worried about are that chasing pack. Interestingly, Alexei Kalman coming up, and Kalman is closing in. That's one of the chasing riders that Emma was talking about in Group 3 that made it into Group 2 and came across the gap. Kalman working well, but Osborne, Mr. X100, Popovic, Safrazad, Vjasin, Martins, all at the front. And now the team from the UAE clan team start to move on to the front and push.
Yeah, so now we're starting to see some response from the group behind as they start to come into this final climb. And we're in pretty much the last 3.5 kilometres of this race. So as we see them now start to sweep round this right-hand bend, we are in with Mr. X100. As they start to string this group out, we start to see some power going down and some real effort coming in to decide the top 5 of this race.
So great to see the action here today on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. And look at this. SS is going to get swamped here. Indeed, he does. As the chasers come past him, he went with them. He couldn't keep it in check. He couldn't be right on the wheels of Vink. Vink has 28 seconds at the moment. It's coming down with the pace and the pressure behind Mr. X100, the road captain for the squad, for that UAE clan team. Is pushing. He's got company. As you can see, everybody trying to respond. Saeed Safrazad going over the top, working with his road captain there. Vjasin, Popovic, Nora, Martins, Kalman. Followed there through up that climb by the rest of that bunch. But at the moment, Vink is the rider on the front. Can he stay there? Not long to find out. We're now in to the last 2,500 meters of this race here on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, coming out live to you as we bring you the race action here. We got to say, great racing here today. Some really intriguing stories in there. And now the chase is coming, and it is coming strong. And the time gap is coming down. We're down at 25, 26 seconds, down to 24. That clock is coming down. Now's the time that Michael Vink has got to push on. And time for me to get all very partisan here and start to vote for Michael Vink. Come on, mate. This is it. They're really animating the race by making them work behind. He's got to get in to the finish. He's now got less than 2,000 meters to go. It sounds like nothing, but on this line with a chasing pack, he's going to feel like he's in a boat being chased by Jaws at the moment, because that pack is coming up behind.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick my neck out, Matt, and I'm going to say he's going to make it and think he's going to come over the line in first place. But, you know, I don't want to give, you know, any bad luck to Michael Vink, but it's really interesting, isn't it? SS went with Vink. SS Blue. SS has gone out the back of this main group now, and this group are moving on. They are moving through, and we have an hour and 1 minute of racing gone as we're coming to the penultimate times of this race.
We're right into that almost second to last kilometre here, and certainly looks to me like we're really moving the race leader up at the front and behind. He's blowing riders out of the back of the group as the pace comes from the chasers behind. Vujasin, Popovic, Safrazad, Martins, Mr. X100 up here. I think the clan team are going to be represented in strength here, despite the loss really of SS. And I've got to say, I'm not sure whether he blew or whether he had a mechanical issue which he then tried to respond to, and that took him into that red zone. So at the moment, Michael Vink on the right of your screen leading. He's continuing to push. Looks like Mr. X100 and co push on the left hand side of your screen. This is going to be close. Emma, it's certainly looking tight up there, isn't it?
It is, and we can see from the times coming through this final segment 7 today that this chase group have made some of the distance up chasing. So Mr. X100, 6 minutes and 5 seconds leading through with Popovic, Safrazad, Martins and Vujasin. This is the chase group, Matt. These riders are moving through this segment and have moved through this segment faster than Vink, and we can see that as they're making the catch.
So Vink at 34 seconds lost just on that segment. Oh. Michael Vink is at 9 to 10 seconds. He's got under 1K to go. Come on, Michael. Don't let it be finish line heartache here. He's got a push, and it looks to me like it's breaking behind. The group is splitting, and at the moment, Vink has got to make this push on here. He's currently 8 seconds. 8 seconds. 500 meters to go.
I know, with 500 meters to go, Michael Vink now has 9 seconds on the chasing rider. Martins, Vujasin, Popovic 3 seconds further back. This is going to be so close, but I am so willing for the last 400 meters of this ride that Vink makes it across the line. It's been an outstanding ride from him.
So he was aggressive at the start. He recovered. He went again and behind. It's breaking once again. Vujasin now kicking on here. He's coming in towards the line with less than 200 meters to go for Michael Vink. He can see the gantry coming up here. Is he going to make it? He's going to cost me an ice cream. He's made it in through the line here. What a win there by Vink. And look at the sprint behind. The chasers come. The UAE clan team are going to dominate the standings. But Vujasin, I think, taking it as he came through. Let's look at that. It was so tight on the line. Popovic, Safrazad, Vujasin and Martins come through. They are separated by next to nothing. They're coming through. Less than a second separating the second, third, fourth places coming through. So top spot, Michael Vink of the Danish Pavlova squad, the UAE clan team. They're going to be our first team with Popovic, Safrazad coming through in second and third respectively. The Belgian Waffles team with Vujasin and Martins coming through in fourth and fifth places. They're followed by Mr. X100. What a ride. And just watching Alexei Kalman come in. I mean, what a ride by him. Kalman came across the gap. He managed to bridge back in to come into that group, and that was some going as he made his way in through the line. SS on his way into the finish as well, and what a ride by him. We've got to say, he did an amazing job on his way through there, Emma, but not enough to get him right up in touch with our race leaders.
Yeah, and whether that was technical issues or whatever, Matt, it was indeed an outstanding ride from SS today and bringing him through to still the top 10, Matt. So still a top 10 ride with those issues, but an outstanding ride. And I think some of the stars of today's ride are hidden in those results.
They are indeed, but the biggest star of all today, Michael Vink for the Danish Pavlova squad in 1, Pablo Popovic in 2, Said Safrazad in 3, Lionel Vujasin in 4, Martin Martins in 5, Mr. X100 in 6, Johan Naran in 7th, Alexei Kalman coming through in 8th place, SS in 9th, Oliver Simmons in 10th. It's going to be an 11th place for Zach Nair, and it's a 12th place for Jason Osborne. Pavlova and Waffles have 2 riders apiece in, chasing that second team position. but the time gaps are going to be really critical here. Just taking a little bit of a look at that, I think it is going to go to the Pavlova squad as they come in and through the line there. So it is going to be the Pavlovas who take that second. I think we're just going to get a double check as they come in towards our finish. So I've got to say, a great ride here by Christian Maglio. Maglio has a minute and 5 on the riders behind. He was right in with us, category 1. He was getting dragged in there, and he's doing a great ride here. He's got riders like Gakes, Thessalius, Kegel behind him. Shows you just how strong he has been coming in towards the finish there. Great riding as he comes in and through. And look at the numbers, look at the average heart rate and the watts on there. They're big numbers today. I think that aggressive racing reflecting in the data that's in front of us.
Yeah, definitely. And how wrong were we when we looked at the course map today, thinking it was going to be a stroll in the park with a sprint? And boy, the riders proved us wrong. That was one of the most aggressive races I've seen in some time on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Absolutely fantastic, and all credit to Michael Vink.
Well, great to see that win by Vic, and great to see the UAE Clan team coming back into winning ways. It's been amazing watching the men's race action. Make sure you join us for the women's race action. That's going to be coming up very shortly on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Emma, where can we catch you on social media?
Yeah, please do get in touch. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at ByKingEmma.
And don't forget, you can catch up with me at Matt Fix a Pain or at Full Speed Events. From myself, Matt, from Emma, and from all of the team at MyWhoosh. Stay safe. Join us shortly for the women's race. We'll see you soon again. Bye-bye.